You're in a good place now. Relax, breathe, smile. You've entered into your element, the home of origin, the home of intelligence and entertainment, where relevant topics are discussed and where what you think counts, and where superior is the norm. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, live on 660 The Answer.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we're discussing perspectives. What does perspective mean, and how do we get more of it? Bill, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful, Ashley. About yourself?
I'm doing good.
You know, and I can always use more perspective. And I'm sure that our listeners tonight here on 660 can use more perspective too. And in fact, I would like for them to share their perspective with us as we go along.
Definitely. You can actually talk to us here on social media, on Facebook at Ashley Burgess, or on Twitter, Ashley Burgess. Or if you're fans of the Perspectives page, go on and conversate with us there.
Absolutely. And now we have a new way for them to even listen to our past shows to gain even more perspective.
Oh, yeah. You can listen on iTunes like we've been on there for a while, but also we're on Spreaker.
Spreaker, yes.
Spreaker. So if you're on Facebook, guess what? You can listen to us on Spreaker. It's just with a click of the mouse, you're in it to win it.
Not speaker, Spreaker, with an extra R in there.
With an R.
Yes, we love it. So thank you all very much to Spreaker. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
We like them. They're good people.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk about perspective. I know everybody listening tonight are pretty wise, beautiful people, or they wouldn't be listening to this show. I mean,
well, that goes without saying.
That's
Hello.
my honest perspective here.
I mean, come on. You know, I mean, what kind of listeners do you think we have anyway?
Honest, wise, beautiful, intelligent.
There you go.
The best of the best of the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the case, but I think we can all use one thing. What is that? We can all gain more perspective. I don't think that anybody on this planet has enough perspective to understand everything. And I think that's the whole A to B here. I mean, perspective is about understanding things out of your experience zone, I believe. Being able to see and understand things and see what it's about without, having to actually be in it or being a part of it and understanding and not making judgment calls.
I mean, the old saying, can't see the forest for the trees. And I think, that's the reason why you do this show in the first place. It's because people, it's not easy to get out of your rut and get out of your routine and look at things from a different perspective. And I think that's what the show is all about.
And you're right. It is hard to get out of your routine, your humdrum routine. Sometimes it can be easy. Sometimes it can be fun. It's almost like, for example, when you work out, you start working out or whatever, and then you stop and you get complacent and not working out. Even though you don't feel that good, there is not one bone in your body that wants you to work out. You're like, I'll do it tomorrow,
You're looking at my beer belly when you say that. You trying to tell me something here, Ashley?
Well, what kind of beer are you drinking, Bill?
Not light beer, that's for sure. But
well, I remember we were in that CBS. We were on CBS on the news that time. Remember about a year and a half ago when we were on the news and I was coaching you through your weight loss. Remember that?
Yes,
I remember that.
And then what happened? I got involved
in a serious relationship, and we all know where that goes, don't we?
Wah, wah, wah.
I remember. I mean, when I got married. I was real thin, and I didn't really gain a lot of weight, but I think year 2, I got complacent. We were out there eating gelato and pizza and pasta and prosciutto and wine and heavy beers.
Because you want to spend your time, with your significant other.
Enjoying life, eating it up.
And of course, in my case, it's I don't have a traditional 9 to 5 schedule. So that makes it even harder.
Well, yeah. I mean, you would actually have to be eating like cut vegetables or something that you have.
Yeah.
Can you see? I mean, it's too bad you can't see Bill. But if you could see Bill, you would realize that he is really not the person that would be cutting up like little carrots and celery and the baby carrots and washing them off and then putting them in little Ziploc bags and maybe a little fat-free ranch on the side to spice up a little bit.
No.
And some waters that he infuses with some cucumber.
For me, that all that food is for my steak to graze on while I'm eating it.
Oh, are you a steak and potato person?
Tenderloin.
Tenderloin. I don't agree with meat, and I'm not agreeing.
Yeah, baby.
I'm not paying for this ad. I like all these political ads now, and this is paid for by so-and-so, supported by this organization. Well, we're not supported by the meat organization on this show at this time, so there we go. But yeah, we're talking about...
But if they're listening tonight and they want to give us money, then get a hold of Ashley Burgess.
Sponsor Bill.
There you go.
Sponsor Bill.
I'll take all the sponsorship that anybody's willing to give.
Yeah, see, I got to do what's right. I got to do what's the right cause. So you could sponsor Bill back and forth to the studio. You could sponsor Bill and his lifestyle.
I will do it.
And that'd be great.
I'll be a walking billboard for the beef industry. You bet.
Oh, great. Oh, we're going to have to talk about hazard pay now. Yeah, so let's talk about perspective. Okay, so a lot of us know what perspective is. A lot of us know what perception is, but a lot of us don't really know how to get more perspective. And I think perspective has to be defined in its right context. And I'm really liking the concept of defining, especially words of this unique quality, and explaining how this matters. So I think if you're looking at perspective, you would first see that there starts with a P, and that begins with purpose. You can't have perspective without a purpose. You can't have perspective without knowing or understanding yourself or logically understanding the earth and what's going on around you. Otherwise, it's just perception. It's just the way you perceive things based on your own perceptions that aren't really educated perceptions. They're just made up in your head. And so that stands for E, education.
There you go.
You have to be educated, right? So we have to be educated to make good, honest perspectives, to understand our perspective, to be able to sit there and say, I kind of rationalize this by my education, understanding where I am in the world and what I'm doing on planet Earth. And so the R stands for what? Reason. You have to be reasonable. You have to have reason. You can't be all emotional making decisions. You have to be reasonable in your decision making, and you have to be reasonable when you're understanding different topics, different things, understanding where other people are coming from.
How many people do you and I know who have gotten into trouble by just acting on however they're feeling at the moment?
Oh, everybody normally gets in trouble for that.
In the heat of the moment, they always say, okay, count to 10. But, you and I both know. In fact, I'll cop to, acting in the heat of the moment without thinking about it.
I like when people say crime of passion.
Aren't they all?
It was a crime of passion, though, Jerry. Remember on Seinfeld? No, but it's true. People make bad decisions. I mean, I think we could go back to the O.J. Simpson trial and talk about some of that stuff. But anyway, there are other people in this planet that have done the same type of thing, and it's a crime of passion, or it's emotional outbursts or decisions made in the heat of an argument, or and I think that's always problematic because you really can't take that back. As well as you're not making any sense. You're just making up stuff. And it's just about how you're feeling at that exact time. And I've realized that any time that I put a lot of emotion into any sort of true thinking, I'm not really thinking clearly.
And I think that's all of us. And that's the trap that you could get into because once you take an action on something, it's real hard to take it back.
Yeah, and I mean, you really, and the problem is that when you're acting emotional, you never hear anybody say when somebody has their head on their shoulders and they're dedicated to love and that kind of thing, you never hear them saying that they're emotional. You only hear people talking about emotional when they're talking about women, a lot of times, oh, well, it must be the time and she must be emotional. Or you got,
Aunt Flo is visiting.
Aunt Flo is visiting. You're dealing with this stuff, and they're like, oh, she's emotional today. You don't want to get on her bad side. Or when people are really angry and they're fighting or they're upset or they're crying, and you can't make good judgment calls at that point.
No, you can't. I mean, and that's why and it's easier said than done. I understand, but in that kind of situation, you have to force yourself to, first of all, recognize that you're about to make a decision out of emotion, and then, take the proverbial, count to 10, take a step back, use some perspective, and then go forward with it.
And even if you have to leave, and I know some people don't really, haven't really done this, but a lot of times in a heated battle or an argument, the best thing to do is to kind of, get your stuff and leave. Take some time away because, it's easier to stick around and fight it, but you're not going to get to normally a very good conclusion.
Right.
A lot of times it's good just to kind of leave, get some air, even if you're just taking a walk or even if you're leaving and saying, I'll get back with you.
I've done that.
You have?
just I need some air, and I'll go and take a walk and just cool down.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it work?
Sometimes it does. Yes, a lot of times.
Doesn't?
A lot of times it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But
for the most part, though,
for the most part,
it has to be
works.
something really heated,
Right?
for it to keep with you.
So for it to instead of calming down, the more I think about it, there have been a few times where the more I thought about it, the angrier I got.
Oh. Okay, Bill actually formed a fist with his right hand as he said angry.
It's like,
But no, I mean, it's true. I think a lot of times we go through these situations and we have to be reasonable. So when we return, we're going to be talking about more about what perspective is and to begin to talk about how to get more of it. So stay tuned because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. We'll be back in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. The water's warm and there's a swim-up bar. Glass of perspective, anyone? Now, here's Ashley.
Okay, now, lean forward against the glass like this.
Oh my God.
Isn't that great?
The city looks so peaceful from up here.
Anything is peaceful from 1,353 feet.
I think I see my dad.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we're discussing perspective and how to get more of it. No matter how wise, how beautiful, how intelligent you are, and we know you are because you listen to this show. I mean, you have to be. I mean, the topics we discuss are very highbrow thought. I mean, we're discussing things that take what? Wisdom. They take intellect. They take what? Perspective.
And when our listeners are listening, of course, they have their pinky finger out.
Oh,
and
I like that with a nice glass of Chardonnay,
or with their tea,
with their New Yorker, the copy of the New Yorker out as well.
There you go,
we
or
go.
D Magazine.
You have muted NPR to listen to this show, so let's talk about what perspective is. So first off, we decided to talk about purpose, right? P for purpose, yay! I feel like I'm about to do the YMCA thing. P is for purpose. E,
actually, you sound like Vanna White to me.
Do I?
Can I buy a P, Vanna?
1, 2, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, but she doesn't speak.
That's right. Yeah. So but she's the one that goes turn. So okay. So you got a P. I want to buy an E.
Ding, ding.
There you go. Right.
That's all you hear, and she just claps.
And she smiles.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Good gig if you can
What
get
a
it. Right.
gig. I like that. Gosh, that's a nice one. That's got to be good. You don't have to think about like topics to come up with. You don't have to sit there and analyze what perspective means and how to gain more of it. Instead, you look good, you stand there, you walk around, you move some stuff.
Hey, I in fact, when she retires, I've got good looking legs. What do you think?
I think you're great.
Yeah,
I think Bill might take her spot.
That's right.
I
look good in heels.
A nice little short skirt. Paint your nails red.
There you go. I look good in heels.
I like it. We need to get some pumps for you.
Yes.
We get some nice spectator pumps. I
There we
like
go.
that. Yeah, so let's see. Purpose, education, reason is your R, reason. So let's go on to our S. It's seasoned. You got reason and you got seasoned. And then we're not talking about seasoning like, any sort of Lowry seasoned salt. We're talking about being seasoned. We're talking about seasoning means you are seasoned. You have, you're a little older, you're wiser, you've been around, you've seen things, you've taken note.
You're experienced.
That's great. It's like Jimi Hendrix.
Which I mean,
Experience.
are you experienced?
I love that.
Which and we don't mean just folks who are older can age is just a number. I've always thought so. So regardless of how old you are listening to this show, you've experienced life. At least to a certain point, and so therefore you can use that in trying to gain perspective.
I totally agree with you, and I think that's key, is that being seasoned. I mean, you have experiences. Are you experienced? Exactly. The experiences that we all gain allow us the wisdom, allow us being seasoned, allow us to understand situations, allow us to see things differently than someone that's never experienced or seen something before.
And I've always thought that who we are is the sum total of our experiences.
That's true.
And, whether they be good, bad, or indifferent.
They're just experiences.
They're just experiences. And a lot of times you can actually learn more in life from when things don't go right.
That's
than
true.
When they, it's kind of the school of hard knocks, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
We all have. Yeah.
I graduated with several degrees.
I was going to say, I've got a PhD fellowship.
Yeah. Are you also a teacher?
I'm a tenured professor at the School of Hard Knocks.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. I'm glad you could break away from your university here to come on the show.
For you, Ashley, because of our highbrow audience on a Saturday night, then I'm here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, so I like that. So season. So the next thing we have is P, another P, perspective. It's also a spelling lesson here tonight. P for perspective. The second P, participation. I think you have to participate. Everybody has to participate in life to have perspective. You can't sit on the sideline and basically yell, oh, they're doing it wrong, or they're all wrong, or they're all washed up, or they're the worst, or whatever things you're going to say from the sidelines, because that's just them on the sidelines. I mean, they're doing the play-by-play. I mean, you got to participate in life to have a genuine perspective that really people want to listen to.
Absolutely. And this is not youth sports. You don't get a trophy just for participating.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Like a good old ribbon we got.
Exactly. Nope.
Not youth sports, huh?
If your reward for participating is basically gaining perspective, gaining an understanding of yourself, what your purpose is, and basically where you're supposed to be going.
And how much or how little you participate also is relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because some of us can choose to kind of just not really participate, and other times we can choose to really participate. And, it's funny because I kind of look back to some of my old, schooling. And I remember there was a time when I would work really, really hard on projects. And I remember this one time I worked really hard on this project. And I worked really hard, and it was really, really good. And there was one thing that was wrong. Like, I used the wrong camera to do something, right? And that professor went off on me. And I remember I got a B. And I had really participated. So the next one I, didn't even work that hard, and I got an A. And then I started kind of going that slippery slope of, well, I'll just do the smallest I can do to get by. But then I realized that's not the way to look at life, you know? I mean, it might work in school sometimes because it seems like some professors seem to know when you've done a lot of work and you sweated a lot and you figured it out, and they still grade you down. But I think in life, for the most part, if you participate less, you just get to experience less. I mean, how many of us want to sit there and say, well, I experienced a lot of sleeping, and I drank a lot.
And other than that, I don't really remember what happened.
Yeah,
had a hangover the next morning.
That's all I remember really about that. That's all I got to say about that lifetime. I think you have to participate, and you have to have ups and downs, and you have to be stressed out, and you have to be scared, and you have to be loving, and you have to see all these different feelings, and you can't lock yourself up against feeling human.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's not easy to step back and try to gain a new perspective. And so by participating, it gets you out of your comfort zone. Four walls, so to speak, that we all, to some extent, tend to put around ourselves. And it's not all that easy to step out of those four walls. In order to gain perspective and to participate, like you're saying, we at least need to kind of stick our heads above it and see what's out there.
I agree with you. And recently, I just experienced something that was really out of my comfort zone. I stepped up to the plate and I participated. I set up an appointment with. Okay, so basically, a little background story is I'm looking into possibly having a child. Okay, so I've been kind of throwing that around, thinking about it, and so I went to a fertility doctor.
Okay.
And that was very stressful for me. I made the appointment, and the making of the appointment wasn't that bad. There was a little stress on the line making the appointment, but it's so far in advance. I mean, these doctors are they got a lot of people coming in.
Yeah.
And so it was a month in advance that I made the appointment. And so when that day came, that morning came, oh my God. I was just like, oh God, I don't want to do this. I really just don't want to do this because it's really out of my comfort zone. But I made the appointment. I showed up, and I'm glad I did. I learned a lot. I haven't made a decision on what I'm going to do, and that'll be for another show because we'll have to talk about all the ins and outs of that because it's not at all what people are thinking over there.
Now, to the folks listening, that's called a teaser. Okay,
yeah.
She's teasing, that you got to listen to a future show because we got to know what's happening with Ashley's
fertility situation,
reproduction situation.
Yeah, so you don't know. I mean, you don't know. It could be anything, right? It could be anything. And so it really took me out of my comfort zone. But had I not had participated and did what I needed to do, I wouldn't know some of the answers that I know today.
Right.
I still have to go back to. We'll have to talk about that in a new show too as well, because I'm actually heading back there in a few weeks. Holy mackerel! But we'll see what happens. But participation is key to getting anything out of life. So let's move on to excellence. E. Perspectives has an E after the second P. And
a second E after the second P.
Second E after the second P. Well,
Right.
It's a long word, guys.
It is.
And I had a lot of work to come up with this, okay? So, I mean, excellence. So I'm just going to go and say that I was excellent in coming up with this. So E for excellence. You have to be excellent in what you do. And I think excellence means going the distance. It means doing the right thing. It means not allowing mediocrity. It means actually following through. It means when you show up, you do your best and you do a really great job. And you're even proud of your own work. That's what excellence means.
What's the old saying? Anything worth doing is worth doing well. I think this is exactly what you're talking about.
That's true. And anything worth doing, well, why do something, half-egg?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to expend the time and energy to do something, then why not do it well? If you're not willing to do it well, then move on.
Exactly. If you're not willing to do it well, then you just need to move on. So when we return, we're going to be talking more about what perspective means. We're going to also begin to get into how to get more perspective, deeper perspective in your life. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in, we'll be back in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess on 660 The Answer.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing perspective, what it means and how to get more of it. And we've been going through this concept of what perspective is. And perspective is purpose, education, reason, seasoned, participation, and now we're back on excellence. Excellence, like we were just talking about, it's not worth doing something unless you're going to do it right? And that's what you were talking about right before the break,
Right.
Bill. And I think that, if you're going to do your best, if you're going to step up to the plate and do what you do and be proud of it, I think that's what excellence is. That's what excellence always is. If you just do something and it's half done, and you're like,
Right.
It's like, what are you doing there? I mean, why are we all wasting everybody's time?
Now, Ashley, as we're going along here, we are posting what each of these letters mean on our Facebook and Twitter pages. As we're going
I'm
along.
updating right now.
So for our listeners out there, as we're going along, please share your stories and share your insight on each one of these letters as we're moving along.
And think about what perspective means to you, because I think whatever perspective means to you is inherent. And I think there's obviously an inherent difference from perception and perspective. And there's also a difference between a skewed perspective and an honest perspective. And we have to be honest with ourselves, and that's why the first letter was purpose. So excellence, I think that describes itself. Next is centered. You have to be centered. You have to be grounded and centered in life to have a positive, honest perspective. Because if you're centered, you can see things for what they truly are. You can see them for what they are without your, presupposed ideas from a negative slant, as well as, a lot of times we put these thoughts in our head and we make judgment calls on people and things that have no basis in reality.
Well, so another way to say centered is balanced.
Balance, but we had to use it with a
Yeah,
C.
you had to use a C, but that's what basically what you're meaning here is you have to have balance in your
We
life.
changed perspective to perspective.
Perspective. Yeah, I know.
We can add lettering to it. No, I agree with you. Centered, balance. That's the key. If you're centered, or if you're balanced, which are both, like the whole chakras and all that kind of stuff to your solar plexus. If you're centered in the centering of your body, you have like this grounding. You
Sure.
have this ability, and you see things from the correct way. I mean, because I think a lot of times when we have a deficit on one way or another in our life, when we see other people that might not have that, we have a tendency of judging them.
And something that my grandmother used to say to me: it's okay to have your head in the clouds as long as you have at least 1 foot on the ground.
That's true.
So I say balanced, and maybe another way to say it is, be grounded. It's okay to dream. It's okay to, strive for something and pursue your dreams and go for it. That's kind of what we've been saying up till now is you have to have purpose and all the good stuff.
True.
Be grounded at the same time.
Be grounded, be centered. You know, and when you're at your center of gravity, when you're in the center, that's what's awesome is you walk. It's all about that. It's all about just being centered, being you. And in order to be centered, to be grounded, you have to be yourself. And I think that's inherent in having the good perspective. But let's talk about T. T for thoughtfulness.
Okay.
In order to have perspective, you have to what? You have to be thoughtful.
You have to use your noggin.
And you have to be thoughtful of other people, too.
As
it's not all a narcissistic world based on honest perspective.
You just hit it. I mean, it's like we say in West Texas, use your noggin for something besides a hat rack.
And use not being narcissistic. I mean, because, people have these perspectives where they're completely narcissistic. They don't think about anybody else in the whole world. The whole world is their only oyster, and they're not going to give up any of that pearl. That is their thing. And instead of that, thoughtfulness. I mean, being thoughtful about other people and animals and things in this world is so important to having a good life, to participating in something with purpose, and to have the right perspective when you're going in anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think too many people get caught up in being their own little mini gods or their own little mini verses, if that makes sense.
It's true. I mean, you see people that are so narcissistic. I mean, that's why everybody gets angry on the highway. That's why people get angry at work, because people only think about themselves. A lot of people only think about themselves with no thought for other people. We
have to realize that, first of all, we live in a society, okay? So we interact with human beings and whatever. It's good to just realize that your actions are going to affect other people.
True. Your actions will affect other people. And the way that you realize that and the way you understand how to have correct actions, because you can choose to act one way and cause, pain and grief to people. You can choose to act a different way and so be supportive and helpful. Right. And I think, yes, I get that some people will sit there and say, well, yeah, thoughtfulness, that won't get you a cup of coffee. Okay, I get it. I mean, I understand that, but you know what? It's feeling good about yourself at the end of the day.
Here, explain it this way. No, it's not going to get you the cup of coffee, but you have to go up and get the cup of coffee yourself. It's just that when you're carrying it back to your desk, hold it out in front of you, and look. When you come on to the intersection there, check to make sure that you're not about to bump into somebody.
You're talking logical, like coffee. Like you got to go get the coffee. I like that.
And if you take the last cup of the pot, be good enough to start
make
a new
some
pot.
more.
I mean, come on.
Except for if you're a bad coffee maker, don't bother.
Right.
Just leave. Just run away. Just leave.
I agree.
We don't want your coffee.
No.
But a lot of people will say, no, you're not going to make any money that way by being thoughtful. And I think there's a way of doing it. I think that society lately, especially in the 80s and 90s, there was a time where people were very just thoughtless. And I think there's a lot of people out there right now, we see it in the news all the time, that think nothing of other people. They put other people in danger on a daily basis.
Yeah.
They cause problems on a daily basis. But I think if you're thoughtful, I think eventually the good comes to you.
Because
you might have to fight a little harder. You might have to work a little harder, but you can look at yourself in the mirror at night. You can look at yourself in the mirror before you go to bed. You can wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and feel good about who you are.
Because I think most people, if they have their choice, they'll only do business with someone that they like. And if you're thoughtful to other people, then, okay, you may not, get their sale or get them to buy whatever it is from you right at that moment, but they're going to remember that. And, word of mouth is the best advertising there is.
That's true. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. So let's move on to instinct. Okay, perspective has an eye. We're going with instinct. Instinct. I think you have to have an innate instinct. You have to feel things. You have to have some sort of reality of feeling things. You can't just be going in it as a blank slate, not feeling your way in this world. I mean, there's a reason why people that are blind can somewhat see. I mean, there's an instinct quality. It's like, when one sense or ability is not there, you captivate on the other senses. And I think instinct is part of that, is that you have to build up your instinct.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, and I think that a lot of times that's gotten kind of dumbed down. I don't think people realize how important this is.
I think I'll go even a step further. Actually, not only do people tend to not pay attention to their instincts, but they actually work on ignoring it. That gut feeling, that voice in your head, and I think some people work on pushing that to the back burner. When a lot of times if the voice in your head is saying, okay, this situation doesn't seem right, or hey, you need to pay attention to this person or this situation or something like that, then okay, don't let that necessarily be the primary guide as to what you should do, but you need to listen.
I agree
to what yourself is saying to you.
If you can listen, I think that's amazing. That changes the whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, because it becomes not a game anymore. It becomes real. I mean, a lot of times people are living in this world playing it as a game. They're playing, oh, okay, if I do this and they'll do this. And it's like this cat and mouse game. But in reality, it really has nothing to do with that. It's like we're gaining inner truths about ourselves. And a lot of times when we get into this game, we forget the reason why we're doing all this, the reason why we're here. It's not just to see who gets the most money and who gets the most cars and who gets the most chicks. I mean, that's for some people. I mean, some people, that's their game. But I think we're here for a deeper reason. We're here to learn and to understand about human nature, about ourselves. We're supposed to learn about the heartfelt things that make us tick. I mean, this is why we're here, to experience what life is as a human. I mean, you don't get those chances that often. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, you don't have somebody that just shows up to the door one day and go, hey, you want to try to see what it is to be like an eagle? We're going to turn you into an eagle for a day, and you can try that out. You know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool, like on a daily basis.
Like our theme song to start the show, you got to fly like an eagle.
To the sea. We're going to make you, come on, you got a whole day, you'll be a sea turtle. I mean, that's kind of cool stuff. I mean, but, it doesn't happen all the time. You get this one life, and you got to do something with it. Nobody else is going to be banging on the door after that and being like, hey, you tried again. You want to try it again, but you want to have long blonde hair this time? Interesting. I don't know. Could be cool.
Bleach blonde. Platinum blonde.
Definitely not natural, then. We're going for bottle. We're not going for God. So we'll go for that.
That's funny.
So yeah, when we return, we're going to be talking more about instinct, vision, and one other. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk also about how to get more perspective. Perspectives with Ashley Burgess will be back in. We'll be back in 2 shakes.
I could lift you up. I could show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be.
Get in here. Give us your perspective. We're listening. And you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing what is perspective. What is it, and how do we get more of it? In the next hour, we'll be talking about how to get more perspective, deeper perspective, making sure that you have honest perspective. But in the meantime, we've been defining what perspective truly is. And in order to understand what perspective is, we've been talking about how it's purpose, it's education, it's reason, it's seasoned, participation, excellence, centered, thoughtfulness, and now we're back on instinct. Instinctive. We do things out of instinct. When you're listening to yourself and you're centered and you're balanced and you get it, you actually derive a lot of answers from feeling, from knowing your gut reaction, from feeling in your gut what you should do next.
Feelings. Whoa. Oh, okay,
Feelings.
I'll stop.
Watercolored memories of the way we were. Scattered pictures. Yeah, so let's talk about that instinct, because I think the worst thing that a person can feel is lost. When we feel lost and we feel off our path and we feel off target and we feel like our life is lost, that's a really lonesome feeling. Like, we've all been there before.
I've been there. You know my story. I've been there.
I've been there, where you feel like, oh, geez, I know your story. I think most of our listeners kind of know mine, too. But I don't know. I mean, just like when we talked about you and me, I do think that a lot of times you go through that lost feeling where maybe you have changes in your life. Maybe you have, maybe you're going through some grief. Maybe, some things have changed, like your career or your marital status. Maybe you've gotten a divorce. Maybe you've gotten even married. There's a lot of things that happen here that you have to deal with. And in order to understand and to kind of place things, you have to kind of figure out where you are. What's your pathway? What direction are you going? And sometimes if you're standing there and there's a fork in the road and you don't know where to go, that can be debilitating. You get stuck. You don't know where to go because there's no sign pointing to you, Ashley, go left. There's nobody yelling at me to go left. You have to make the decision. So, I mean, you could go right, and it's a one-way. At the very end, there's a dead end, and you got to turn all the way back around and go to the same side. And that's normally what happens. And there's a lot of learning involved in life. there's a lot of learning. But once you get on that path and you start realizing and not ignoring it, and you start listening to that gut, and it takes time, because sometimes if you've been turning that off and you're not listening, it's going to be a while till it shows back up again. Because why show up? Why be at a job that nobody's looking to you for any answers? I mean, you're just sitting there. And I think
just taking up space, yeah.
Yeah, and the instinct probably is like, okay, well, this person never listens to anything I say. They're always doing the wrong thing. And I think for the most part, a lot of people listen to their gut instinct, but sometimes still feel a little lost, maybe. And I think in order to really feel centered, in balance, you have to kind of work that. It's just like, I think it's kind of like a muscle. It's not, but it is kind of in the way where, if you work it and you use it, it gets stronger.
Yeah, and I once again, we're blogging live on Facebook and Twitter. So, those of you listening to us on radio or on iHeartRadio, if you got a story to share, please do so.
Yeah, if you're listening on TuneIn, iHeart, go on Facebook at Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, or go to Ashley Burgess, or go to Twitter as well under Ashley Burgess handle as well, which is good. So let's go to V. V as vision. We have to have an innate vision. I think vision is inherent. Think about what vision is. Vision is a direction, a thought process, a view, a vision, something that you see. You're looking ahead. There's a vision, and you have a thought process on that, and you see things, steps and steps ahead instead of just right in front of your face.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to the first letter, P for purpose. It helps to have a vision to know what your purpose is going to be, and that way you can have the right perspective on not only where you've been, because it's also, vision also helps, don't you think, Ashley, as far as understanding where you've come from. So that you'll know where you are going or where you want to go.
I agree. And I think having an innate vision, allows you to be on the right path. I mean, you got to kind of visualize where you're going. Or
realize that you are on the wrong path and what you need to do to get on the right path.
Perfect. I agree.
Pat myself in the back. Ow, broke my shoulder. Pat myself in the back.
I broke my shoulder patting myself on the back. Yes, I love that. I broke my shoulder.
Because that was an excellent comment, don't you think?
I agree with you. I mean, could you repeat it?
It was, in order to have the vision to realize that you are on the wrong path so that you can get on the right path.
Perfect. That was good. Yeah, and I think sometimes we have to do that. And sometimes one choice can get us thinking unclear. And I think a lot of times it's like, kind of like re-stepping, or what is it when you're like re-stepping or going back on your tracks? Like,
backtracking.
Backtracking and realize where did the change out happen? Because sometimes it could just be something that you chose. It could be somebody in your life. It could be some emotions that you aren't dealing with, that you're putting under the rug, that you're refusing to deal with, that are affecting your day-to-day thought process. And I think if you backtrack and realize maybe where you went off the trail, it's a lot easier to get back on the trail than is it if you want to just scrap it all and feel like you were never there. Because I think for the most part, people that are listening tonight have been on the right, proper trail, but sometimes we deviate. You go down a wrong way, you go down a dead end, and it all happens. We're human, but at the same point in time, in order to fulfill our purpose and to move on in our life, we got to get back on that. We got to get back on the right hike. We got to be hiking the right mountain. We can't be off somewhere else. Because that's just busy work. All of a sudden, then you're going down some sort of road, and you don't even know where you're going.
You got to have vision to be able to do that.
X-ray vision, really. Night vision.
There you go.
You need to have a set of night vision goggles, actually, to be able to see. You got to check it all out. So next, but not least, perspective ends with an E. We're going to use energy for that. Energy. The energy to follow suit, the energy to do something, your positive energy propelled to be able to do something. Bill, are you tired?
Energy. Okay, I guess, excuse me, I need to go get a cup of coffee here.
You don't drink coffee.
Well,
you drink Red Bull.
I'll
Monster.
Oh, okay.
And Coca-Cola.
I'll go, and Mountain Dew.
And Mountain Dew. All Coke products, really.
Yeah, soda products and Red Bull.
We need the meat companies and the Coke companies supporting Bill's habit. That's what we need.
Hey, sponsorship, baby. Give us your money.
Give us your money. Give us your money, your energy money. Yeah, we're talking about energy, though. So think about energy, positive energy. Going into a situation with enough energy to do it. Going into this life with enough energy to do it. So that means, some of y'all need to get sleep. Some of you need to get some sleep. Some of y'all need to figure out about your sleeping habits, but also think about the whole concept of positive energy. It's not just about energy. It's about positive energy, going into a situation, going into anything you do with a positive outlook. But what else is it? Everything in this world is made up of energy. Everything. You are energy. Everything's energy. Everything that you see is energy. And so you have to realize that everything has energy. Everything has movement. And if you get into the right circular movement of that energy, you're grounded, you're centered in that energy, you're centered into the whole being of what we have, and that perspective is going to be logical.
You're delving into your Yoda self. It's like, the force surrounds us. It does.
It does. It does. So, no, but the force, when you realize, and that's true. I mean, a lot of the stuff from Star Wars is very poetic in the fact that it's very true. I mean, the force, the positive force is within you. I mean, the negative force as well too. And I think everybody has that yin and yang. Everybody has that positive and negative. Everybody has those certain attributes. It's the ones we choose. It's the ones we choose to act on that makes us that type of person.
And that's the key concept there, Ashley. You can choose that stuff, because I've been here. When somebody walks into a room, let's say they have a bad attitude, they have negative energy,
right?
And you're better at this than I am. But it's like they're radiating that negative energy throughout the room, and it's like you could be talking to somebody else, and all of a sudden, like, your internal radar just goes off, and it's like, somebody's got negative energy, and But the same thing with somebody with positive energy too. If somebody is positive, upbeat, can do, then it's infectious.
I agree with you, and I think a lot of times we don't realize the power of energy. The power. Think about the power your energy wields, right? I mean, so the power of your energy, if you come in with positive energy, you know what we're talking about. I mean, you walk into any sort of room, you walk into any sort of meeting, and you are glowing. People are coming towards you. They want to be around you. They want to get to know you. The opposite is true for negative energy. And that's why I think it's interesting when people talk about being high on the hog or not on the hog or being low on life, and they wonder, why is it people aren't around when they're not doing really well, and I think a lot of times that's based on the fact that it's the way you carry yourself. I mean, if you're in a bad mood all the time and you're lower than low, people don't really want to be around that. I mean, one thing, people have issues and people have problems, but people don't really want to hear all that, and sometimes you have to kind of pull yourself up by, as they say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But it is true. It's like the way we see things. So if we're having a negative day, a lot of times we sit there and go, oh God, it couldn't even get any worse. Instead of saying, hey.
Yeah, careful about saying that, because
it does get worse.
It can, yeah.
Because your mindset is that it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to sit there and say, you know what? I'm redoing this. I'm going to take some deep breaths like we talked about earlier. I'm going to take a walk real quick. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to reprogram myself and have positive energy. And that positive energy radiates. That positive energy and the ability to see things in a certain light allows you to have a certain perspective as well.
Which, again, is easier said than done. We understand that. But if you understand your purpose and you center yourself and kind of listen to your instincts, a lot of the other things that Ashley's been talking about, then yes, you can do it.
And I think a lot of times too, when you look at being happy or sad or what have you, a lot of times it's easy to fall into that emotional pitfall, but really, honestly, it's always easier to be happy. And I'll explain that when we come back. But anyway, when we return, we're going to talk about how you and what you can do to gain more logical perspectives. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, we'll be back in 2 shakes.
You're in a good place now. Relax, breathe, smile. You've entered into your element, the home of origin, the home of intelligence and entertainment, where relevant topics are discussed and where what you think counts, and where superior is the norm. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, live on 660 The Answer.
I know she'll appreciate all the trouble you've gone to find her. Let's call her. It's ringing! Whoever this is,
We're in the middle of something very important here.
This is your dad.
What? Hey, guys, I know this is weird timing, but I gotta take this. It's my dad.
She's got me on hold.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing perspective, what it means and how you can get more of it. You know, right before the break and for the last hour, we defined perspective. It was purpose, education, reason, seasoned, participation, excellence, centered, thoughtfulness, instinct, vision, and energy. Those are the words that make up perspective. And when we align these together and we follow suit, guess what? We get honest perspective. So let's talk now. I know that a lot of people listening are like, okay, that's a great definition. We love it. It's good. It's the superior definition. But how do you actually get more perspective? And I think most of the people listening tonight are beautiful, wise, instinctful, centered. So let's talk about how we gain perspective. Because a lot of times we get stuck in our own lives. We see things from our own perspective. And maybe things start getting small. And I think that's key, right? Like the world and and the things that we experience start to become tiny.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's tough to divert your attention away from the things that are just right in front of you. And then, you know, but once you gain that perspective, then you kind of realize, well, you know, I'm just kind of it's not really that big of a deal after all, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we get overwhelmed or irritated about certain things, and then all of a sudden you travel to China and you see other things in the way that it's working. A lot of things can be put in perspective. I mean, when you're out in India and you see people living in a box, and there's not one person, there's like 1 million people living in boxes on the side of the road, that puts things in perspective.
Well, and, you know, you don't even have to go that far, Ashley. I mean, you know, what the large city that we live in, you know, take a road trip to Kansas.
True.
You know, and
what are we going to see in Kansas, though, Bill?
I
love Kansas.
Actually, but that's the key there. You know, you can. There's lots of things to see in Kansas. You just have to be willing to look. That's
true. So the first way that you can gain perspective is what? We can get it from getting away, from traveling.
Right.
From a retreat. And so, you know, traveling is so important. And I think a lot of times we even lose sight of traveling from work. We lose sight from traveling to and fro. We get so inundated in our phones and in our technology and in our cruddy music. Man, have you heard the music lately on the radio? Oh, my gosh.
Don't even get me started on that.
I mean, if you're not listening to talk radio, you just got to turn it off.
Yes.
I mean, you got to have your iPhone. You got to have some sort of MP3 player, something going on, because I've been listening, and it is bad. And I've been in a loaner car because my car's been in the shop. And the system that's in there, I brought my hookup for my iPhone so I could play my music, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Great.
So I've been listening to the radio, and I've caught myself literally, if I'm not listening to talk radio and I'm not listening on people on one of the stations of the lineups that I'm on, I'm listening to Tejano music, honestly. I'm getting a new perspective. I'm listening, or I'm turning it off. I've literally driven in silence a lot lately.
And then it's amazing how much comes into focus when you don't have the distraction of the radio going.
Oh, yeah, because that distraction. Yeah, especially with the commercials, too. When you start being able to say the commercials, you got a problem.
Now, always turn the radio on when Perspectives with Ashley Burgess is on. You know, that, of course.
That's a totally different deal.
You know, so, but we're saying, like, you know, maybe when you're driving to work or from work in the afternoon, it's amazing what you can notice when you don't have something else distracting you. See, actually, that's why I ride the train to and from work. See, I don't have to worry about driving. I don't have to worry about, you know, whether that person, you know, coming up behind me in my blind spot is going to run over me.
That's a good thing.
So, and, you know, of course, I have my iPhone with me, but sometimes I'll just, you know, look out the window. And it's amazing the perspective on the city that I get.
True.
And the people.
That's true. You do get a lot of perspective. And that's the thing, is about not like going through your life by the motions. And I think when we were talking about perspective earlier in the first hour, we talked about participation. And in no way are you participating in life if you're literally a means to an end to get somewhere. Yeah. If you have completely shut down. And I see a lot of people driving like they don't even realize they're in a car. Like they've forgotten. And you know how when people go, I don't even know how I got there.
Yeah, because they're daydreaming.
Daydreaming, not focusing, calling, talking.
Right. Listening to the radio and tapping, texting on your phone at the same time, which of course you're not supposed to be doing.
Or going back through something that just happened earlier and you're thinking about it and you're living in the past and you're upset about something that happened. And I understand that's a human condition, but participation is so important. And so if you can take that and you can start driving with mindfulness and start walking with mindfulness, but also, like we were talking about, travel. I mean, it's good to travel. And you might not have a lot of time off work. You might not have a lot of vacation time, but make some time, whether it's even over a weekend, just to take some travel, just to go see some of the world, something that even the United States, even a state away, even different cities, to see how other people are living.
Again, I touched on this, and I'm quite serious when I say this, Ashley. I mean, a lot of times when people say travel, they think, oh, jet set to Europe or to New York or, whatever exotic locale. Don't even have to do that. Just, especially with the gas prices being as low as they are right now.
Right.
Get in the car and go. And go to some place that you haven't been. You don't even have to go far.
You don't.
There are hidden gems in a lot of rural areas.
I agree.
If you're willing to look for them, the old time antique shops on the main street in the little town that otherwise you wouldn't pay attention to, that type of thing. And it's amazing the perspective that you can get.
I agree with you, Bill. That's very
good. And it only costs you a day.
It only costs you a day. And it's nice because you get to spend some time, traveling and seeing things that you normally wouldn't see. And it allows you to have a deeper perspective on the things around you as well. Second of all, you want to treat yourself. And we're not talking about retail therapy here. I think I've written several essays on retail therapy. I've gotten the graduate degree in it, much like Bill in his doctorate.
No joke.
But it's about self-care. It's about what feels more healthy and helpful for yourself right now. It's about loving yourself. It's about respecting yourself. And it's also about sometimes putting yourself, when I mean yourself, is like putting your health first. And I think that's really important.
And when you say treat yourself, I mean, going back to last hour, we don't mean being narcissistic. We've already covered that topic. I think what you mean, Ashley, is that, let's say that you got your report in on time at work. Well, you know what? Treat yourself. Go to a movie. Or, go buy, how I like to treat myself, go get the Blizzard at Dairy Queen.
Oh, jeez.
The Snickers one. That's my
gosh. One. See, I can't eat that because I've already had a lot of dental work. I don't want to go back.
Well, I've had dental work too.
I used to get the Butterfinger ones.
So we all have our, favorite little treats.
The Oreo
there.
ones.
Yeah. I like the Oreo ones too.
The Blizzards, right? We're talking about the Blizzards.
Yeah. So
those are awesome.
They are awesome. They're too awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love those.
But
they are too awesome.
Here's another treat. Treat yourself
awesome.
to travel.
Treat yourself to travel, or treat yourself to just spending some time with yourself.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes it's not about every event you attend. And I think some people listening tonight have, work with charities, have a lot of stuff going on, whether you have children and you have a tough career, as well as charitable work, whether there's other things that you're involved with socially. It's good to be present at certain events, but you don't have to do this every night. As well as sometimes when you put your health first, your body respects you and it's happy. Because a lot of times people can be going at, burning the candle at both ends. And I think some people might listen to, they might have several jobs. And you have to you have to respect that, maybe you need to have that type of money or that income. But at the same point, you got to find a time to exercise. You got to find a time to take care of your well-being, because there's only so long that you'll be able to burn both candles at both ends without having a problem.
That's for sure.
And so it's about taking care of yourself. It's also about eating well. Think about it. Treating yourself can mean eating healthy, not well. Okay, because eating well, most people think of a 48-ounce steak with all the sauce you can get, and a baked potato with all the butter you can get, and a big, huge carafe of wine. We're not talking about well, we're talking about healthy.
Excuse me, you just made me hungry, so continue on. I'll be back later.
And so you have to eat healthy. Healthy is, because if you're eating healthy and you're getting some sort of exercise, even if you're walking an hour a day, or 30 minutes a day, even around your complex at your work or what have you, that's essential. But also eating well, you're going to live for a long time. You're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to be healthy, and you're going to live for your family and your relatives. It's not going to be some sad story where everybody talks about, well, they passed away at the age of 48. That's sad. Everybody's like, must have been a heart attack, must have been a stroke. And, and sadly enough, you don't want to be one of those percentages where people go, oh, well, that's sad. We saw it happening, but we couldn't do anything about it. They won't listen to anybody else. So, and I think a lot of people are falling into that right now because they're trying to get the money they need to support the family and do everything they need, and at the same time not thinking about longevity of their bodies. And I think that's very important. So when we return, we're going to talk more about ways to get proper perspective and how to really align that with your life. So Perspectives with Ashley Burgess will be back in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. The water's warm and there's a swim-up bar. Glass of perspective, anyone? Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing perspective, how to have real, honest perspective. Now we've been talking about how you can actually gain perspective in your life. And I know that a lot of people say, how do you gain perspective? Well, that's what we're talking about. Gaining perspective means to get a better feel, a better, finger on the pulse of life, you could say, So perspective, a lot of times you can gain it by what? Getting away, traveling, taking a retreat, seeing a different part of the world, getting out of your backyard. Seeing things for what it is. And, Bill earlier was talking about how, you don't have to go travel overseas. I mean, if some of y'all are able to, that's a good thing too, to see things from a different perspective. But if you see things, you can really get out there. And I think that's what it comes down to when a lot of people live in the same area that they were born. You're born and you're raised and you live there, and you really need to get out of there to see more perspective.
And just see other people's take on life and their normal daily routine can a lot of times provide you perspective because it may just be different from what you're used to.
Well, I remember my husband would travel to China a lot, and he would see them doing, is it Tai Chi, or what is it that they do with the very slow movements? And he would watch like older, Chinese men and women out there doing that in the morning. And he said it was very interesting to watch because it was a totally different perspective. And also in different cultures, the elderly are considered wise.
Right.
I think we have, our country is a little more, what are we, disposable?
Yes, that's a great word for it.
We'd rather put them in a home. And I know that there are some people out there that, has to, because maybe there's a lot of difficulty. Maybe there's a lot of care that's needed. However, I think that there's a lot of society that we could say is disposable. I think you have to look at that and say, are you really involved in your life? Are you doing all you can? Are you being responsible? Is your purpose being met? But even better yet, how centered and thoughtful are you? And I think that a lot of times we're able to become more centered when we see more options, more things, when we become more wise. I think you can only be as wise as you can if you were born and raised in a particular box and you live there your whole life. Your wisdom would be as wise and as vast as that box.
Yeah, those four walls that we put up, around ourselves, our comfort zone.
That's it.
So, stick your head up above the box and see what else is going on every once in a while.
Take the box, throw it off. Put it in the recycle bin, because we're not disposable here. We're recycling things. And then get on out there and travel down the road, The second thing would be to treat yourself, self-love, to care about yourself, to put your body, your health first. And because, nobody's going to give you the medal for, suffering and not taking care of yourself. Nobody's going to sit there and say, well, you know what, Bill, he never ate well, and he never worked out because he had a lot of work to do. Nobody's going to sit there and give you the martyr award. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to give it to you. Just like with children. When you have children, sometimes you have to put yourself first, and that might mean getting a babysitter. That might mean taking your children to a play, place where they have people that watch your kids. That might be, asking your relatives, could you come over or could we take them over? Because sometimes you have to come first because your emotional state and your mental state is very important.
Because if you're stressed out and just ragged all the time, well, your kids are going to pick up on that, and that's going to negatively affect them.
Yeah, and it's energy. It's all about energy. And it's just so important to sometimes just put your health first, your well-being, your mental, emotional, physical well-being. Because, if you don't have those things, you don't have anything. Straight up. And, the biggest thing, we all know when people have health problems, you know what they always tell you? You don't know what it's like, without health until you get sick, and you're not healthy. And what a troubling time that is. And it's true. And a lot of us don't think about that until we get unhealthy. We go through the motions and then we become unhealthy and we're like, gosh, I wish I just had my health back. because life was so much easier when I wasn't going through all these, trials or these surgeries or wondering if I was going to die or not. And a lot of times in life, we don't really see what we have until it's gone. And so that's one of the things you want to put first.
Yep.
Next let's talk about being in good company. And all these things go together to offer you a perspective. Being in good company, think about, what does it mean to be in good company? What does that mean? I mean, it's the time, and it's about being with the right people. And sometimes it's because of major life changes, or I think a lot of times it's just being around people who support the path you're on. Really, honestly. I mean, if people support you for what you do.
I mean, a key word there, support. You've heard a lot of people talk about support system, right? You need to have a good support system around you, and that's absolutely true. Friends, family who support what you're doing and can offer advice or perspective, if you will, sometimes when you don't see it. A lot of times we're better at solving other people's problems than our own.
That's
so
almost all the time true.
Yeah.
And the support is so important. I mean, really, honestly, no matter what it is, when you have people around you that support what you do, it is a feeling. It's a good feeling. And it's sad, though, too, on the flip side, is that when you are around people that aren't supportive, you can feel it. You know it.
Just drains the energy out of you, doesn't it?
It drains you, and also it's like, what are you doing? I mean, why are you hanging out with people that don't support you? I mean, there's so much other things you could be doing besides that. I mean, even being more independent and not hanging out with people that don't support you would be more helpful than hanging out with people that would rather not support you and not support your dreams and not support your path. And I think that's critical. I think it's time for us to take some calls. Good evening, Dominique. You're live on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Oh, hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hey, wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm at work, but I just wanted to take a little time out to kind of throw my 2 cents in on the topic that you guys were talking about today. And I definitely think that, you should surround yourself with positive people just due to, if you surround yourself with positive people as an individual, you're going to be positive. And also you're going to be goal-oriented, and you're going to be maybe as successful as the next person that you hang around. You have to keep good company, just a positive vibe for yourself, your self-esteem, and, everything else in life. You have to have those positive vibes.
I totally agree with that, Dominique, and I think that's a good point, because she's weighing in on the fact that it's important to be surrounded by good people, and I think when you're not, you get taken off target. You kind of go down the primrose path.
Absolutely, because if you hang around negative people, you're going to start thinking negative. And it's sad to say, the company you keep is who you are, but it's the truth. The company you keep, if it's positive or negative, that is what you're going to become. So why not surround yourself with positive people and, keep climbing up that ladder to be the best that you can be,
Well, I like your perspective, because it's coming from a person that's obviously probably been on the side of both coins, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And I think that's what it's all about, is knowledge. And I think we've all been in those positions. So is there anything that you do personally to be sure that you're surrounded by the right people?
I think that it just depends on the individual, Personally, me, I like to surround myself with positive people, because positive people uplift you. They just uplift you, make you feel better as a person. So, negative people kind of look down on you and talk about you and just do all types of rude and disrespectful things. And,
they just suck the energy out of the room, don't they?
Yes. That's what I'm looking for. They suck the energy out of you. Absolutely.
I totally agree. And Dominique, it was awesome you having calling into Perspectives. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Ashley.
I'm glad that Dominique chose to weigh in on this conversation tonight, because I think it is so important for us to be surrounded by good, positive people. And I think it's very important, and it's inherent to our growth, to be around people that are similarly minded as you. And I think she brought up a good point. She was kind of, I think, hinting around about it, but it was about the haters.
Oh, yeah.
And I think sometimes it can be, it's not always in your face, and sometimes it can be people that are pretty close to you. But I think for the most part, if you are surrounded by decent people, I mean, you'll stay on path.
Right. And, when you say similar-minded, I mean, we're not talking about yes men or whatever. So people that are just going to, say, oh, yeah, that's doing the right thing no matter what the circumstances. But if you want to be around people, or let me rephrase that. If your goal in life is to, say, advance in your career, if your goal in life is to be a better husband or wife or whatever, then it's not going to be good for you to hang around others who either are stuck in a rut in their career, or somebody who maybe is having problems in their relationship, for example.
Well, that makes good sense, because I think a lot of times too, a lot of people hang out. So I did this for a little while and then realized it doesn't really always work, but sometimes it can. You have to just really think about it. But sometimes some of my married friends actually hang out with only single people. And they wonder why their spouse gets angry, because they're always out, they're going out. And I'm like, you are kind of married. You got to think about the fact that, probably going out to the clubs every night's not going to be the right thing. Also about, you're right. If somebody's very much into their career, I mean, the last thing you should probably be hanging out with is a bunch of people who are retired. Or a bunch of people that don't care about their career.
Right, exactly.
I mean, because if they don't care, they're going to be dragging you out. You're going to be agreeing to go on to things that you shouldn't. You're going to be, probably not doing that well at the job.
You'll be tempted to cut corners at work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that rubs off on you. I mean, good and bad rubs up on you. I mean, we all learn very quickly as children. We learn a lot of times the not so good traits before we learn the best traits. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, we'll be back in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess on 660 The Answer.
We're going to draw some perspective. We're going to draw a road and some phone poles and building going into the distance with some mountains and shadows and all that kind of stuff. We're going to do it really fast. You can't do perspective without a horizon that you're looking into the distance at.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing perspective, what it means, how to have perspective, what is perspective defined as. We've thought about purpose, education, reason, seasoned, participation, excellent, being centered, thoughtfulness, instinct, vision, and lastly but not least, energy. Right before the break, we were discussing the ways that you can gain more perspective. And the last one we were talking about was about being in good quality company. And I think anytime that you're spending time with people, you need to reflect on the quality of the people that you're spending time with. I think that's inherently important, because if you're surrounded by people that have values, that value their life, that value what they're doing, that value their vision, they will also value your vision. I think this is quantitative, because if you're around other people that don't value their life or don't value the things you value, you're going to kind of, there's going to be a brick wall there. You're going to have problems, right?
Yes.
Because you're valuing two different things, and you can't value one thing but value another. And sometimes we have to look at our value system. What is it that's more important to us? Is it what our vision is? Is it our future? Or is it our friends? And if those are not congruent, if those do not go together, you have to figure out which one you're going to get rid of. And if that means that you want the friends so badly, then you're going to get rid of the vision. But I think for the most part, everybody knows that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of fish in the sea, there's a lot of people that you can connect with, and sometimes it's about finding things in common. And I think that's inherently important. For example, if having a family and having children is important to you, you probably want to spend time with people that are having children and are very family oriented.
Right.
Vice versa, if having children is not your cup of tea, if you really don't want to have a family, you might want to spend time with people that are more interested in their career or outside, sources, but you don't want to really spend a time with a bunch of people that have a bunch of children. I mean, you're probably not going to be going to their pool parties, I think you want to find where you get in, where you fit in. And so you don't have to be like cookie cutters of each other, but you have to value the same types of things. And that's what's so inherent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, gaining perspective in order to find out your true purpose in life, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And that may mean, the the college buddies that you used to run around with and go, skirt chasing and, get drunk with.
Skirt chasing.
I
like that. Skirt
chasing. Yeah.
That sounds like a sport.
It should be. It should be an Olympic sport, actually.
We're actually watching a little bit of bowling and then a little bit of pool, and then we're going to watch some skirt chasing.
I'd win the gold medal.
ESPN2.
I'd win the gold medal. So
you would?
I'd win. Yeah, I would.
You would? What do you?
Yeah, they'd score me like a perfect 10.
Oh, you get 20.
That's right.
You'd be like on fire, on fuego, get 20.
But you know what I'm talking about. All of a sudden, if I end up getting married and want to start providing for a family, therefore I'm going to need to maybe adjust my career goals and ambitions in order to take that into account. Then, still going out, Fridays and Saturday nights with the buddies skirt chasing, that's not going to work anymore.
That's true, and I think a lot of people listening might have found themselves in that situation one time or another, and had to make the choice. And sometimes, you have to figure out, you still want to be friends with the guys, but you got to figure out when that time works. And I think everybody's supposed to grow and evolve, and I think we also have friends out there that it seems like we talk about the same stuff, from 10, 15 years ago. But you have to realize too, most of them have evolved too. And I think sometimes that's taking a friendship to a next level if you think about it. Because how you have those friends that you have the same conversations and the same stories, but they've lived 10 more years after that and you have too. And it's like you have to start getting in touch with the you now and the them now instead of just going back to the good old days, And I think that's also consequentially important.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we don't see it that way. We just see that they haven't grown. Well, they've grown too, but you got to kind of grow together. Next we want to look at things from a bird's eye view. I think sometimes when we see things so close, we're almost cross-eyed how close things are, that it can cause us to maybe overreact sometimes. And I've done that before, where something's so close to you and it seems so huge at the time. Yes. But it's not that big.
Well, Ashley, I'm glad that you got to this, because I personally think this is the key concept in what you're talking about tonight. It is, you've heard the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
It is very difficult, not impossible, but it's very difficult to have a perspective on life when it's right in front, when life is just happening right in front of you.
True.
And, I think, first of all, it's a reason that you need a good support system around you, because other people can see things that maybe you can't, because, life is right in front of you. It's happening right in front of you now. But also, everything that you said tonight, that perspective stands for, purpose and experience and, energy, centeredness, all that other stuff. I won't go through them all. But anyway, that's why it's important. I think reason is a really key concept there, because you have to be able to stop, take a deep breath, count to 10, and then that lets you step back, metaphorically speaking, and maybe see what others are seeing, and that way you can get that bird's eye view that you're talking about.
I agree. And remember when we were kids and they'd say, stop, look, and listen? For both ways, before you cross the street.
Stop, drop, and... Oh, no, maybe that's one.
Stop, drop, and roll. That was another one, too. Or get under your desk. We're having some sort of earthquake. No, I think that bird's eye view is interesting. Just think about it. Even when you go up into a high-rise building and you look off, from the windows and you're really high up there, you see how small everything looks? And that's why we played a clip earlier.
Yeah, the Ferris Bueller clip.
The Ferris Bueller's clip earlier in the show is because it puts things in perspective. Like the troubles and the issues that you're having become the right size again. Because I think sometimes things are larger than life. And we get very emotional when things are larger than life. And that emotion can do what? It can get us off target.
Yes.
It can uncenter us. It can unhinge us. And when you're unhinged and uncentered, what happens? Not anything good happens. Yeah. You make rash decisions.
Right. That's and I think it's important to clarify. We're not saying you have to be Mr. Spock, devoid of all emotion at all times. We're emotional creatures. I think the key is you have to realize that you are reacting emotionally to a certain situation, and that way
totally
you can
agree.
avoid making that rash decision that you're talking about.
I totally agree. And I think that sometimes when we're distancing ourselves, we might have to put some distance between other people. And I'm not saying permanent distance, but I think sometimes when you're surrounded by the situation day after day, minute after minute, sometimes if you can just get a little distance, you can actually think for yourself. And I think being alone sometimes is what's needed when a problem seems bigger than it is, because you can actually figure out what you need to do without other people's perception or telling you what you should do. And sometimes there'll be people there that are very beneficial and have been through it and can help you. But I think for the most part, we all have to go down our own path. We all have to be our own boss, in a sense. Like, nobody's going to sit there and live our purpose for us. Nobody's going to actually carry us down that path. Nobody's going to get a wheelbarrow and put us in there.
That's right.
And roll us down our path. I mean, some of us would like that sometimes. That might not be a bad deal. You have a six-pack, you got the wheelbarrow, you're feeling good about life, you got a pizza back there, and somebody else is doing the work, but that's not going to happen.
No.
You can't find anybody to do that. And no, your kids won't do it for you either. So you can't have someone else have to do it. You have to walk it. So in order to walk it, you got to see things from the right perspective. And the way we do that is from distance. The way we do it is from a bird's eye view and realizing that things aren't as big as they appear. Like, when you look in the mirror in your car and it says things, things that aren't, they're not as close as they appear. Right? They're closer.
Things may appear closer than they are.
Yeah, and I think that's key. And I think we just have to look at things in that perspective and be honest with ourselves, and also realize we are human and we're allowed to have emotions. We're allowed to feel angry sometimes. We're allowed to feel happy. We're allowed to feel sad. We're allowed to feel whatever. But it's about handling up on our emotions and realizing that the emotions aren't us. I have clients come in all the time that say, "I'm mad. I'm scared. I'm stressed out. I'm this. I'm that." Well, you're not stressed out. I mean, since when did your name change to stressed out? Since when did your name?
Yeah,
it's true, right? Since
like
when
you are not what you eat.
Your name was Allison, and now you're stressed. I mean, you're not stressed out. That you're not becoming this persona. And it's funny how we identify ourselves with an emotion, and a lot of us identify ourselves with the emotion we're having at that exact time.
We become that emotion.
Like, I'm mad. I'm not Ashley anymore. I'm mad.
So maybe a better way for your clients to say it would be, I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Angry.
I'm feeling
because
anger.
feelings can run their course, and you can do things to change that.
And it also divides you from the feeling versus who you are, because the emotion is not you. That is just an emotion that you are currently experiencing. And I think that's good to put it in the confines of what it truly is. So stay tuned, because when we return, we're going to finish this all up and figure exactly how you can gain more rightfully honest perspectives. Perspectives with Ashley Burgess will be back in 2 shakes.
I can lift you up. I can show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be.
Get in here. Give us your perspective. We're listening. And you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing what perspective means, how you get more perspective. We define perspective as purpose, education, reason, seasoned, participation, excellence, centered, thoughtfulness, instinct, vision, and energy. And we've been discussing about how you can actually gain more positive, thoughtful, real, honest perspective. And it's about getting away, treating yourself, putting your health first, understanding that being in good quality company is inherently important for a good quality life. We talked about, doing something fun, but also the bird's eye view concept about seeing things for the direction, the distance, and the size of what they truly are. And we talked about this right before break, and a lot of times we have to see things the way they are. And sometimes when we're right up in it, it can be difficult to see the size of something. We can actually see something as being a lot bigger, a lot more painful, a lot more bad than it really is. And sometimes we just need to take a breather and realize kind of, what we need to do to deal with it, and knowing that we're not the emotion we feel at that time. That is just an emotion we are experiencing, and not to label ourselves as so. So I'm not going to say I'm angry. No, I'm Ashley, and I might be feeling angry. Or I'm Ashley, I'm not stressed, but I'm feeling under stress. I feel like I have stress, and that's okay. That's logical, but that divides you from that emotion, making it not you. You're no longer the emotion.
Yeah, because you can do something about your feelings. Once they run their course, you can do something to change them if you don't like them. But once you become stressed, and you are stressed, well, it's who you are, and you can't really change who you are, can you?
That's so true.
So then you're stuck.
That's so true. That's the key, and that's so inherently important. So let's move to the last but not least, the way that you can actually obtain more quality perspective. And that's something that's so important. And this is something that is so important that most people still do. And it's to not assume, to stop making assumptions.
Because you know what they say about assumptions? Makes an ass of you and me.
You got to say that. It makes an ass of you and me. I got to say it. No, I agree. It does make an ass out of us. And what is that? Because we all make assumptions. What do we make assumptions on? Situations, people. We make assumptions on everything. Oh, they must have done that because of this. Oh, they must be thinking this. Or, and you make all these assumptions, good, bad, or indifferent. And normally those are off because we're not in that other person's mind. We don't know what they're thinking. Or we don't know why something happened, but we're trying to go with a series of events from a certain perception that what we think might be happening. And I think that when we make assumptions a lot of times, that shows that we have little perspective. Because I think that assumptions just don't work. It's almost like the illogical way that we as humans...
Say it fast 3 times.
The illogical way. Yeah. Say it once, Ashley, and screw it up. Yes, but it's the illogical way of us to make changes or make exceptions in our life. And I think a lot of times we have to realize that these assumptions we make, what are they doing for us? I mean, clarity is where we need to be moving toward. I mean, if you want to ask a question, but making an assumption is not going to help you have a revolutionary perspective.
You know, and I want to thank you for talking about this, Ashley, which, by the way, we'd be remiss if we didn't say to our listeners, of course, we are still blogging live on Facebook and Twitter. So if anything that we have said tonight is, striking a nerve about where you are in your perspective, please share it with us. We would, definitely love that. But I have a real problem with making assumptions in life, and I really have to fight myself. And I think in my case, it's because, quite honestly, I'm lazy. I make assumptions because that way I don't have to stop and think about it.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Or you make assumptions based on your own perception of what's reality.
Yeah,
because you want to have some sort of story.
And I also get impatient sometimes with situations, so I don't want to stop and think about it and use up all that brain energy. I'll just go on this assumption, and sometimes it gets me in trouble.
And the thing also too is that sometimes people make assumptions out of us. I mean, when was the last time that you went to an event or you went somewhere and you knew in your heart of hearts that you felt that somebody had made some sort of assumption already about you?
So they make an assumption or they make an ass out of us? Maybe both.
Well, they make an assumption based on appearances.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good one, by the way, Ashley. I mean, and I'll be honest, I do it. How many times do you see someone's outer appearance and just automatically assume you know everything about that person?
Oh yeah. Oh, they must be. They must not be a good person. Or oh man, they have it all together. Oh, they must be very successful.
Right.
Yeah, we make all these assumptions on appearances.
Yep.
As well as a lot of times with intelligence, you have people that hear people talk and they'll make an assumption here or there. Based on a job, a particular job, or a place that somebody lives, or a car that they drive, they make assumptions. And I think when we make assumptions, the sad thing about it is that it takes all truth right out of everything. And it leaves us even more in the dark than we were before. And it seems like it even takes us away from asking questions. Like, why not ask a question? If you have a question, ask it. Why assume one thing when it's not going to get you any truth? You're just going to make up a story in your own mind. And sometimes we can make stories up in our own mind to basically hurt ourselves. Like you see somebody look at you funny or act a certain way and you think, oh, they don't like me and I better just get out of here before it gets bad, when in actuality, maybe they were having a bad day. And, some people I've realized don't even understand what they look like when they're listening to people. I've actually told people before.
That's funny, actually. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking
yes.
about? Like, you'll have a conversation, and I know people listening tonight have dealt with this, where you see the person on the other side of when you're talking to them, and they look angry, or they look like they're not listening, or they look like they're going to fall asleep. You've seen that before. Or
yes.
They look just like they're going to rip your head off.
Right.
And I even looked at people at that point in time and said, hey, I'm going to stop what we're talking about. Are you angry with me? And they'll be like, what do you mean? And I'm like, or are you upset? Or do you think what I'm saying to you has no merit? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'll be like, because you were falling asleep. or you were looking at me like you were going to eat my neck. I mean, like you were going to kill me. And they're like, I don't understand. And I go, next time you really should start looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing what you're giving off to people, because if people are trying to read you by your mannerisms and by the way you're reacting, they would rather run. And I think sometimes we make that assumption. And so what do? You run. You end the conversation as quick as possible. You get in your car and you go, what a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, what an SOB. I can't believe they did that to me. You know what I mean? And then you make this whole story up all the way down the street. Now, there are some jerks out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they know the jerk store is full, okay?
Which, by the way, if you don't know one, you probably are one. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's great. I like that. Yeah, but so there are a lot of jerks out there, too. But in actuality, it's totally okay to clarify. And I think that gives us greater perspective, because if you are in a conversation with somebody that doesn't understand their facial movements, and it's good to help point that out too, because they've probably been going through life with people running away from them the whole time.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If somebody's a jerk, asking somebody a question clarifies it very quickly. You don't have to sit there and spend a lot of time with a jerk. You don't have to waste your time. You can move on. You know, instead of just making these assumptions, because I think when we make assumptions, we cheapen it. We cheapen we cheapen everything we're doing. We're cheapening the experience. We're not having an experience because guess what? We're not participating because we're running away. We're running away because we catch something and we think, oh, well, this has got to be identical to that one time when I saw that person do that, so that's got to be the same thing. No, probably not.
Yeah, because if nothing else, we're two different people, two different situations. Yeah.
Totally different. So let's talk about this perspective. So that's why the show is named Perspective, is because perspective is so critical. I mean, in order to really live a life worth living, you have to have honest, true, authentic perspective. And I think when we are able to find our purpose, to live on purpose, when we're able to be educated, and don't remember this, education doesn't stop in college or doctoral school. You are being educated, and I hope you're learning on a day-to-day basis. Every second of the day, because when we stop learning, that means we're dead.
School of Hard Knocks.
Right? You're going to constantly learn something. And if you're learning, you're living, right? If you're learning, you're living. And that's what's so important. And, you know, think about this, too. I mean, think about the idea of having reason, being able to see things from a bird's eye view, making decisions that are centered within yourself, you know, participating in life, having that excellence, striving for excellence, being the best you can be, you know? I mean, you know, driving that home, as well as being thoughtful with others and caring about others and doing things well and respecting that others are involved on this planet. You are not just a narcissistic person that doesn't do anything for anybody. Think about instinct, about listening to your inner self, about allowing that to guide you, to keep you back on your path. Vision, having a clear, honest path vision of where you want to be in 5 years, where you see yourself in 10 years, what you want out of life and what are important to you, as well as having the right positive energy to get you to where you need to go. We got a great show for you next week. Bill, this is an awesome show. I am happy we got to do this tonight.
Me too. I'm so thankful that you chose to share this with us tonight. I took a lot from it.
I love it too. So stay tuned. We got a great show for you next week. And guess what? Keep that good, solid perspective. We'll be back with Perspectives with Ashley Burgess in 3 shakes.